having this kind of independent feedback, is crucial to continuing to enhance, how the street views you as an IR team, how effective you are, both externally and then back internally, getting, the street's trust and just their reliance and, respect for you as a team. It's almost like doing a 360-degree review with your colleagues, right? You're never going to improve. You need to know how you're viewed sort of externally, and if you're being helpful, if there's anything that you're need to improve upon, and for IROs specifically, for communication styles, how often you're kind of reaching out, how your messaging is coming across, how you're helping analysts with modeling, anything that we do in our specific investor relations, jurisdictions or realms is important, just to know if you're being effective and what you could do better to help both the analysts and the investors. Is a very challenging global environment. I'm sure most of us are going through difficult times as IROs. My company included. Best piece of advice I found that's working really well, and I would give to all of you, is just to be out in front of your analysts and investors as much as you possibly can, particularly in this environment. It's probably a good practice always, but maybe in good times it's too much. I don't think they can hear from us enough, and just make sure the messaging is clear and consistent across your executives, all the senior leaders in your company, and what the IR team is saying. Another thing I've found is to try not to visibly act or seem kind of frustrated about maybe where your stock price is or the disconnects in the valuation. I mean, most of us, I would say, are at this point, including me and my team and overall at Prologis. And I really try to resonate with the street on their fears. I mean, it feels like everything it's very doomsday. It's been a stark difference from, say, 6 months ago to now in terms of the questions that we're getting asked. And it's generally asked to, frame it in the worst possible scenario, which at least for us would probably be the GFC. And there's so many different variables going on in the GFC, just in terms of tailwinds for our industry. And I'm sure, across many industries and companies, and why things are why we're different, and, we're less levered. I'm sure there's a lot of less leverage going on in other companies and sectors. But what I do is I just say, hey, okay, this was the worst we've experienced as a company, GFC. Here were the dynamics going on then, and kind of talk through with, the analysts or the investors on why we don't think that this is going to happen again, kind of engaging them in the conversation. They say, what's the worst thing that could happen? And, you might say, for my company in particular, it could be a lot of retailer bankruptcies who are our tenants or our customers in our buildings, that would result in a lot of occupancy, and that's specific, right? And it's kind of, you come to an agreement with the person you're speaking with that's pretty dire and likely wouldn't happen. And then I've found that they walk away feeling, a lot better about, okay, we've sort of framed the doomsday, we're above that from here. No one knows what's going to happen or have a crystal ball, but just being able to have a conversation with them, take any of their fears, which may seem a little bit overblown or draconian, and take them seriously and just kind of talk through with them what could happen and what would need to happen to get to such a dire situation again, and then kind of come to an outcome where it's like, we don't think that's going to be the case. So Prologis has been a long-standing leader in the REIT space on ESG. I mean, we were one of the first, I won't go into this or belabor this too much, but we were one of the first to really change our governance practices to, be what is now a lot more modern and adopted across, most other companies. We had started doing solar and playing in sort of the sustainability space, 2 or 3 decades ago. So we've long sort of led the pack of REITs and put this ESG, topic kind of first and foremost. Need to make economical sense for our shareholders, but we've found that we can generally marry the two. And most recently, what I'm most excited to talk about is back over the summer we issued our latest sustainability report, and we put out a goal to be net zero across the entire value chain. So scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 by 2040. So we're kind of beating the Paris Climate Accord by 10 years. And I would say, looking across REITs, maybe some of our global counterparts have some scope, a science-based target that they're adhering to. Very few, if any, have really come out with a total net zero goal, which would include scope 3, which is in my industry, the biggest scope for any of us. It's kind of tackling what's happening inside the warehouse. So we're really, really proud of that. I expect more to follow, more companies to follow and put this out. We really want to encourage others. We like others to kind of follow suit. And one thing above and beyond that I'm just proud to talk about here is this week we are piloting our first ESG NDR. So our chief sustainability officer, our head of ESG, and our head of community workforce, and I are going around and meeting with our top investors in New York and Boston, and really just specifically, NDR format, but specifically to talk about this goal and what we're doing and how we're going to achieve it. So we're excited and, hope that this is the first of many. Happiest day on the job I've experienced to date in IR, I would say to pinpoint to a day is tough, but the early onset of COVID was really tough, I think, for all of us. None of us knew what was going on in the world. Everyone was afraid, or for the most part, I would say, trying to understand how to manage news flow that was coming in from all the various publications, and how to communicate that with internal, management, and then how to do your communication with investors. It was just a big kind of question mark on how to do it best. And maybe at first, my team was sending too many emails to executive management, and it was coming from various people across the team. So it was sort of, let's try to put that together, come from one source, to lead to less confusion. And then, of course, we end up managing the messaging to the street. We ended up deciding to hold a call, almost like an earnings call, where we just answered any questions on how we were viewing the state of the world. And for my particular industry, which is logistics, real estate, ended up sort of just being a blip in a quarter, and ended up actually being a good thing for demand for our industry. Unfortunately, given the sickness, that's never something to be happy about, but just given that everyone was staying home, e-commerce was a big driver of demand in our space, and everybody was, forced to order, online goods, even those that were not adopting that before. So that's just, Ursula, kind of a specific date. And I had changed it up to also this year. It's been even more challenging, and to speak into a year of 2022. So after about 15 years, my predecessor, Tracy Ward, who was very well respected across the industry, she decided to take a new position within the company. And at the same time, our longtime CFO, Tom Mullinger, of 15 years, decided, announced that he was going to retire. So early in the year, I had been on the team, so I came to lead the team in February, and with a new CFO who had been at the company for a long time. So he and I have been navigating, both training new teams. I got to hire my own team, which has been great. And then we had almost $26 billion acquisition announcement in June of our largest competitor, which has now come to fruition. And, we closed on it a couple of weeks ago. So kind of navigating both being new, having kind of new teams, then this large acquisition, and the underwriting and the messaging to Wall Street. And then, of course, the capital markets becoming super volatile, and the market really plummeting overall, and just everyone's kind of hair being on fire, and all the inbound calls. It's been quite a year. I'm sure many maybe have not had the exact same experience, but have had a lot of things going on that they've had to navigate this year, between, training, or just dealing with the market and all the inbound calls and questions and anything else going on. It's a lot. It's sort of like, really a boot camp of the first years of running the team, but it's, we've navigated it, and things always get better. If I could pick any other profession, I'd say, and this might sound a little bit cliche, but I'll kind of preface it with, I love movies like the 80s movies like Wall Street, or even now the new Wolf of Wall Street that depicts what's happened back in the day. And really fascinated with all of those type of, the dynamics, because it's changed so much. So I think think if I could go back and just be for a day or something and be like a trader on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange for in the 80s or early 90s when they're running around with their pieces of paper and screaming at each other and like that adrenaline, I think I would hate it after one day, but I think it'd be really fun because you go on the trading floor now and it's maybe two people with iPads. So it's just like everything has changed so much and I'd love to just live that experience.